Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our advocacy training with Rebuild Upstate. As we mentioned in the emails to you, we will be sharing updates. Melanie Campbell's on the call, marketing director at Rebuild Upstate, and myself, I'm Rosie. I'm the community engagement director for those who don't know. A lot of you do know because we do have a lot of staff present on the call this morning. And we appreciate everybody from the team who is giving up some of their time to listen in on this advocacy training moment. And then we also have several representatives from our board of directors and our 2 advisory councils present today. I've even seen some brand new advisory council members joining, which is awesome. Thank you for being here. You are all such a vital part of Rebuild Upstate's mission, and you clearly care so much about the well-being of vulnerable community members. So that's why we want to keep you informed on the ways you can advocate for those vulnerable neighbors and older adults in our community to help them remain safe in their homes. This can happen through legislative action, but it's also our opportunity to share with you and equip you with the tools necessary to help recruit others to support our mission locally. We have lots of opportunities to do that we're excited to share with you today. So we do intend to keep this session brief. We have a lot of great information to share. So that's why we're recording the call for you again. And additionally, we will be sharing links in the chat throughout the call and an email afterwards so you can explore further if you'd like to and take action. So we're excited to speak about those current advocacy opportunities and introduce new strategies that we've developed around community engagement with Rebuild Upstate. So we'll get started now. We were going to have Emma from the Home Repair Coalition, the Coalition for Home Repair, join us this morning. She's not feeling well. So Melanie, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Awesome. Well, for those of you I haven't met, my name is Melanie Campbell. You don't see me very often. I work remotely for Rebuild, but I also work part-time for the Coalition for Home Repair. So part of my role is helping organizations build their narrative around how they talk about home preservation in their local communities. And Emma did share some notes for me. Emma Carrasco, I wish she could be here. She is really sharp, but her role at the Coalition is building strategic partnerships, and she oversees all of our advocacy and data collection, and she is a wealth of knowledge, but she sent me some great details about the Older Americans Act when we get here into it. But it's really interesting that I am sort of in both worlds of boots on the ground and what's happening in the upstate and seeing it from a local practitioner level. But I'm also hearing from organizations nationally about trends in the midst of budget cuts and reviews and everything that's happening across the nation. And I just think right now, organizations, Rebuild is in a really strong position from what I see. I know I work here. But people are definitely feeling a little nervous, a little scared as cuts are coming through. So one of the best things we can do is just be really proactive. Today, we are going to throw a lot of information at you. We're going to start big picture with specific policies and some legislative actions that we can take. And then Rosie is going to wrap it up at the end with some of our more local needs. Everything we share today on our screen, we don't have slides. We're going to be reviewing a lot of files. Every single thing we share is going to be sent to you after the call. So without further ado, check my agenda here. The first thing I want to give a little plug for, share my screen, is an event Emma was going to share, which in June on the 17th, there is an opportunity to participate in the Preserving Home Capitol Hill Day. There is a virtual element to this, so you don't have to be in DC, but if you want to sign up and just use that day as an opportunity to contact representatives, it's a great way to join the effort of what's happening at a national level. So I think there's still time, or I think she said register by May 13th, but I think if you're virtual, it's still okay to register. That's for in-person people. So I think Grace shared that in the chat box. And my next thing I want to share is we're going to deep dive into the Older Americans Act, starting with this case study. So as we talk through what's happening with federal funding, I do want to highlight the strength of funding that's coming through to Rebuild Upstate and has been coming for years. Particularly, if you're not aware, Rebuild Upstate nominated the Appalachian Council of Governments for a national award last year, and they were selected as the winner, and they were recognized in Detroit, Michigan, in front of a bunch of peers. But one of the things that was unique about that award is we try to highlight partnerships that would be of interest to other members. So the South Carolina Appalachian Council of Governments is something that we call a AAA, or Area Agency on Aging. I might be using that acronym quite a bit today. And this case study is fully available. Dale was on the call along with Tim Womack, who is our partner at the ACOG, but Area Agency on Aging, they really oversee helping older adults age in place in a variety of services. So not just home repair, but things like Meals on Wheels, in-home care, ombudsmans, care for caretakers of older adults. They're really fundamental, not just to our work, but how older adults can age in their home safely and in community. So there is a full case study on how we have worked with our AAA. We don't have time to go through it today, but if you like to really see behind the scenes into how we operate in just one case of one of our funding partners, this is a really awesome place to start. Especially to understand how the changes and potential restructuring that we're seeing coming down might affect us locally. And there is some of that potentially on the table here, but some of the highlights, there's over 2.3 that the ACOG has invested in home repairs with Rebuild Upstate, 2.3 million, that's substantial. So as we sort of talk and move into the funding changes, I'll show another document that highlights some of these changes as well, but I want to make sure that this link is available to you. If you don't want to read the report, you can actually see the whole webinar and hear from Tim himself. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my other file as we talk about aging. Okay. Is my file showing up on your screen? I'm seeing like a black screen. There it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Scroll to the top. So the important thing about AAAs and this partnership is that it's really made possible by something called the Older Americans Act, which was established in 1965, and it means every single zip code in the United States has to be represented by a AAA. This has been renewed in a bipartisan fashion since 1965. Currently, the OAA is not reauthorized, in that because it's not authorized, that really puts programs that are funded at risk of being cut. That unauthorized status is pretty detrimental, but it also means that we're not reinvesting in the program. So there's some highlights here that we've already seen. One of the really interesting things is that, the AAA is funding all sorts of services for older adults. The funding that we receive for home repairs is actually not federal. We only receive state funding for home repairs that come through the ACOG. This is a good thing, in my opinion, and in Tim's opinion, because there's less red tape on each of the funds, and it gives him and his position and his staff more autonomy to make decisions to spend the funds better. And so over time, they've been able to do things like increase the minimum we can spend on homes. I think at the beginning of the partnership, it says it in the case study, but it was a nominal amount of funds that we could spend at each home, and now it's substantially larger. And they've also been able to change the area median income based on needs. And so the crux of it is, if we do see federal changes happening to these funds, it puts our state dollars at risk, because those dollars might be redirected into other critical needs like food service in a home and helping caretakers. But I do want to make sure that that's a distinction that everybody here has, is that the home repair dollars that we're spending with this partnership, while it is a AAA, which is governed federally, we're only getting state dollars for home repair. But we don't hate that. It's a good thing, and it gives our partners a lot more autonomy to actually meet the needs of the community. So one of the risks sort of facing, not only is it not unauthorized, which means we're not seeing as much funding come through, but it's a threat of being sort of restructured. Did the sign-on letter show up? Yes, okay, on my screen, okay. So one of the things, again, we'll send this to you, but they're actually sort of threatening to move the AOA into multiple departments, not federal departments. So it means our AAA would have to manage work across federal departments, which would just be very burdensome for them, and likely then trickle down to be a little bit burdensome for us. So this is just a letter that I'm including here. I'll let you read it on your own time, from a lot of names in aging, sort of what they're urging. This letter, I think, was sent last week. So I'm including this just because it's one of the most recent things. But at the end of the day, they're saying, please do not break up any of the programs in the OAA. It's going to affect older adults and their ability to have and receive services, and it's not going to be efficient. If it does, then please keep it, I think they're saying, with the American Children and Families Department, and please make sure there's an assistant secretary on aging, even if the department is moved to this other place. So that's one of the threats, is the actual restructuring as it sits in the budget. So that's something to advocate for, is that specific call out. And again, we'll highlight a lot of these. Okay. So really the action here, and I want to say a lot of the actions that I'm sharing with you today, neither one of my teams at Rebuild or at the coalition is equipped to be super quick with our advocacy alerts and responses. So one of the best takeaways is that I'm going to tell you where to go if you want to receive time-sensitive updates. US Aging is the national association representing AAAs. They are the national partner for our AAA. Tim loves working with them. He works with them a lot. So they do a lot of advocacy, funding, legislation, and news for all things related to older adults, not just home repair. We're going to send quite a few links, but they always have advocacy alerts on their website. If you want to come through, you'll be able to see issues beyond home repair. Oh, where's mine? It was sort of difficult to find their subscription to emails, but if you want that link, this link should work for you if you want to receive their advocacy alerts. I did find it a little bit difficult to track down myself on their website. So I highly recommend subscribing if you're a person who wants to be in the know on these changes that we're seeing coming down. There is a link to reauthorizing the Older Americans Act. That's the biggest thing we want through all this advocacy. That's sort of it would be really detrimental to our organization and to a lot of our peers across the country, to older adults across the country. So there's a lot of facts. They've got history. They have, you'll be able to really click through here. But the biggest is their toolkits, which I have copied and pasted into this document, but this link will take you to their website. But this is the big crux of the call to action. Contact your representatives and senators to keep the OAA programs together at the ACF. There is some links within here, but there's a whole template. So if you want to contact, you can just copy and paste. They've even got it highlighted so that you don't have to, go through the whole thing. If you are on our staff, I would say if you want to send a message like this, please do so from your personal email, not your work email. Our organization is already in contact with senators and so forth to the best of our ability on our own advocacy for this work. So they already know what we're doing. So it would be really helpful to have this come from you as a constituent. But yes, you can copy and paste this the whole way. And then it also says if you want to keep doing this, attending virtual events, town halls that are being hosted, it's sometimes hard to know when or where those can be. Sometimes you have to track them down. You have to be subscribed to their emails. Sometimes you have to get them on the internet. I've heard of people inviting completely randomly based on who's on their email list. But you can talk about it in those meetings, and emailing, you can do it as often as you want. You can call, scheduling meetings, requesting virtual meetings, Rebuild Upstate. We're trying our best to do this, and any direct connections that you have to one of our representatives, we welcome. We had a great meeting with Senator Tim Scott's office recently where we were able to talk about this along with some other legislation. And so, yes, at the bottom of this document, we have linked contact information for our current representatives, as well as phone numbers and website contact forms. If you didn't have it already, we've just put it in one place. But yes, at the end of the day, one of the biggest threats facing us right now would be that the Older Americans Act goes unauthorized, because you look at these numbers, 2,000 homeowners that we've helped, 2.3 million in home repairs, that will be in very serious jeopardy, not because the federal fund will be taken away through the OAA, but because the state will then likely divest funding from home repair into other critical needs. So that's it. There's a lot of layers to what's going on here with the Older Americans Act. I'm going to stop sharing here. Emma sent me a few notes on this, and I just want to make sure that I have shared all of her notes. Yeah, so it's remaining unauthorized. And she said, really, the bottom line is that without reauthorization, appropriations are not guaranteed, program growth is on hold, and that the unauthorized status makes the programs a threat for budget cuts. The proposed federal budget for fiscal year 26 does include pretty drastic cuts and restructuring. And that's why that letter was sent last week, was really to hope that that restructuring does not happen. And if it does, that it doesn't stay between two separate agencies. And so advocacy messaging, continue to contact elected officials frequently and as soon as possible, defending against cuts in the proposed budget, highlight the cost effectiveness of high need, such as, when we build a ramp, we keep somebody out of the hospital. So really at it from a cost, framing it as an investment, because that's really what it does. It's cheaper than institutional care. And then reinforcing that this support is and has been bipartisan. And then if you want to register for that Hill Day, that link is there. Looks like she sent, let me click this one resource. I'm going to put this one in the chat box real quick. But she said this is a resource to stay up to date on things. It looks, I think that's just linking to the bill status. I know that was a lot of information, but that is one of the largest, as I said, threats coming down. And also, yeah, like I said, a lot of layers to it, not just the budget, the restructuring, the fact that it's currently unauthorized. And this is, like I said, it's been reauthorized since the 1960s in a bipartisan manner because it's a need in not just upstate South Carolina, but in other communities throughout the country. And it serves urban communities, rural communities. AAAs do great work. And I encourage you to turn on that webinar, that little case study, have it in the background and listen to Tim talk about his work, because he's been doing this for a long time. And you can learn a lot from even his own words. So next, I want to look through, we're going to be a little bit quicker on this next one, but some highlights from the tax budget outside of the OAA. Okay, so current tax budget and seeing this information from the National Council of Nonprofits. This is where I got this information from, and we'll link this out to them. So the budget is there's a version in the House, there's a version in the Senate. 2 notes. One advocacy opportunity right now is that there is a component to the tax bill that would support and expand tax incentives for charitable giving. This is something that we actually saw implemented in COVID, where it encouraged a lot of people to make, it basically increased incentives for people who take the standard deduction. So we were seeing a lot more information. There's a great 1-pager that is linked that's going to highlight the Charitable Act provides a tax incentive of roughly, $4,500 individual, $9,000 a couple, pretty substantial. As Rosie and I talk about our jobs, any incentive somebody has to donate, we want. So this is a very good thing that is proposed in the budget that we want to see happen. There are some challenges that are sort of called out here, but the call to action is urging our members of Congress to co-sponsor the Charitable Act, House Bill 801, Senate 317. We'll link to these. The last I checked, Senator Tim Scott was the only South Carolina representative to be co-sponsored on the Senate bill, and there were none in the House bill. So if you look at some of these names that are signed on here, even in Senate, you've got Tim Scott, Marsha Blackburn, right next to, Chris Coons, Reverend Warnock. You have some very diverse thoughts politically that are represented. Again, this is a great thing, should be bipartisan. We'd really like to see this come through. And one thing you can always do, in case that 1-sheeter might become outdated, you can actually, I don't know if y'all have ever done this before, but you can always track a bill online and you can see where it is. You can read the text of a bill. You can always see what the actions are. And you can look over here on the tab, you can see who's already sponsored. That way, if your representative is already signed on before you send. Maybe instead of saying, I encourage you to sign on, you can still send a thank you for signing on and let people know that you're still watching, you're still supporting. So you can always look, you can search by state. Again, we're seeing here Senator Tim Scott. I bet if we check the House one, it will remain unchanged, I bet. Oh, is it going to go back to my... I don't think there was anybody yesterday. Yeah, we've got no one from South Carolina here. So this is a quick, easy thing that we could be contacting representatives on. And there was one other call to action on the budget, which is that we want to oppose new or expanded taxes on nonprofit organizations, including private foundations. That would just be pretty awful to have a lot of our income taxed, or foundations. It would reduce what they're able to give for us. Again, there's a 1-pager here. I don't want to spend as much time on it. I'm not as confident that this one would make it through. I'm very optimistic about the Charitable Act making it through. So you can spend some time through here. They do a really great job. Again, this is from the National Council of Nonprofits. They're another great resource to subscribe to if you aren't. And I'm going to end this. All right, 8:27. I'll try to wrap it up here in a minute and hand it over to Rosie. But one other thing that probably the biggest thing we've been watching in our office that has felt a little bit like a roller coaster are the changes lately that have been happening with AmeriCorps. So just to give you all a highlight, we did have an application for AmeriCorps submitted, and Dale might be able to add in the chat box a little bit more on the details, that would have allowed us to hire a resource navigator. This is somebody who goes into homes with our homeowners, makes direct referrals. They help us. They've done budgeting in the past, but really when our project managers are there, they're focused a lot on repairs, even just down to somebody in a home fulfilling a social need from somebody who doesn't get out of the house very more. That resource navigator has been so important to help them make sure they can get a ride to staying more. It's just a really critical role. And that application, once submitted, was unfortunately sort of dead on arrival. I don't even think it was fully reviewed, but that will not be coming to fruition with the changes that's happening into AmeriCorps. And then the separate part is that a program, sorry, I've got a 4-year-old home this week. Hi, I'm on a meeting. Or can you go watch Spirit? Okay. Thank you. Is the good news is that the RSVP, Retired Senior Volunteer Program, which is what funds us when somebody 55 or older volunteers. All right, I can't wait right now, babe. That we get reimbursed. So it's up to $1,000 for volunteer. We've had this grant in Anderson for a few years. It's been wildly successful. If you've met Ryan Hulan in Anderson, he's been working on it. Well, there's great news in that grant has actually been approved for Greenville, Oconee, and Pickens counties. This is huge news. And if it were any other year, we would be screaming it from the rooftops. But we were actually very scared that this wouldn't be funded. And even today, it still feels a little bit like, oh no, is it good? Is the rug gonna get pulled out from under us with this grant? So at this time we have hired, Brooke is on the call, she's working with this, and we are really, really happy that these funds are here. Again, we're watching, we're waiting, just trying to talk to our program officers, but continuing as you're talking to representatives, letting them know that you really support the AmeriCorps program and specifically the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, because it is transformational, especially in the more rural counties that we serve. And we're definitely just watching and hoping that those funds remain with us throughout the entirety of our grant contract, which is multi-year. All right. So really, as we're looking through all of these, those are the 3 biggest things that you can sort of advocate for at the organization. I know Jake has said this, Rosie said this, I'll repeat it, but we're focusing on what we can. We're keeping an open line of communication with our funders. We're being proactive about meeting with our representatives. And there are some nerves, not just with us, but again, nationally with home repair nonprofits. But I do feel confident in Rebuild Upstate's position. I feel confident in what we can control, which really leans into Rosie and her work, which she is going to talk through. I guess I can wait for questions until the end if you just want to take it over, Rosie, but we'll, again, every single file I shared today will be sent back to you. Silly Billy. All right, and I will hand it over to you, Rosie, to talk through local and really Rebuild specific ways to help us.
Perfect. Thank you, Melanie, for sharing. Yes, just so much information. You know, it can seem like a lot, you know, as far as taking action, but I myself feel comforted knowing that there are steps we can always take. We can use our voice, we can write letters, we can advocate for the communities that we care about and the organizations that we care about. And again, thank you to everyone who's on the call and who will receive the recording and watch it back, for being those advocates for us. That's the main reason you're here. And again, I know we have staff on the call. Of course, we are also advocates for vulnerable neighbors. So we've been given some really important, you know, next steps and action items we can take that seem kind of big and like maybe we are a small ant climbing an anthill, but I'm here to tell you that there are also some really fun and interactive local opportunities with Rebuild Upstate that not only you can take part in yourself, your company, your church, but really the reason you're here today is to hear this news and be able to share with others. That's such an important part of being a board member or advisory council member, is to be able to take this information, take the opportunities we share, and then disperse that into the community so that folks know how to get more involved with our mission. So we, you know, have always known that recruiting more partnerships, finding more unrestricted funding is going to be paramount for the continuation and effectiveness of our program. So we have been dabbling and getting creative with ways to partner with churches, communities, individuals for years. And we have really started experimenting and then leaning in the last couple of years with some of those opportunities that you've heard about as being like a VIP to our organization. So that's why, you've heard us talk about utilizing volunteer groups through peer-to-peer fundraising to bring funds to their build day. That helps us pay for materials, pay it forward to another build site. You've heard us talk about build day sponsorships, something that we didn't heavily go after, but we're very pleased and encouraged to find that opportunity. Well, that has really ramped up over the years. The more we have focused on sharing this opportunity with our advisory council, board, other volunteers, a huge credit to the staff we have, the volunteer staff we have who advocate for this opportunity. So, we started making some needed website changes for various reasons earlier in the fall. And a part of that change led us to increase the communication that we are sharing about sponsored build days for volunteer groups, which are mostly going to be marketed to businesses in our community, which we have seen such success with. I'm happy to share, and you've maybe seen this stat, that last year we saw nearly $100,000 in sponsored build days come through. That's incredible. So clearly catching our attention and something we want to market because we're doing it well. We like to think we give a very unique volunteer day experience. We come prepared. We have excellent site leadership. And then an added benefit, we do our best to provide marketing perks for these businesses and groups who partner with us so that they can really shine a light on this amazing work that they're doing. We do not take it lightly that any given business group, small business or corporate, takes time out of their year to plan with us and partner with us and then help a neighbor in need. So we really have leaned into that with these website upgrades that I'm excited to unveil to you today. I am going to go ahead and share my screen to give you a look into what we're talking about. So this is a page that, a potential HR rep or, the community engagement employee at any given business in the upstate may stumble upon by clicking Get Involved on our website. And it's geared, like I said, on purpose towards businesses wanting a team building experience. We know that we do that well. Again, we've got the feedback and, our own version of case studies to show that. So we've really heavily marketed how you can level up your build day from just a regular, unsponsored opportunity by throwing in some funds from your, whether it's marketing budget, your community engagement budget that you have, to really expand that. So we go through the normal requirements and details about the build day, but as a group coordinator could learn everything about what to expect on this page. But as they scroll down, this is new. You can learn exactly what a sponsorship will provide for your team and for Rebuild Upstate. So we've basically put our pricing levels out there. A standard sponsorship is $2,500. That is very popular. So we're really focused on recruiting that. That is an average and digestible number, I would say, for a typical ramp build, which is a great first-time volunteer experience and just in general, a great group volunteer activity. So you can explore this page on your own, but you'll see here we have provided what those perks are that we're able to give to any given sponsoring group. And of course, we have the opportunity to be more flexible with a build day, the more that a business is able to commit to us, ahead of time. So we like to say, going above 2,500, this is great for if you're trying to make a splash in the community for a milestone, that'd be an anniversary in business, expanding your services. This is a great opportunity to while you're building in the community yourself to give back. We would love to be that partner for a business that's expanding or celebrating in the community. So those are some notes there. And of course, we can't highlight this new opportunity and market it without also prioritizing sharing the stories of those great business partners who have already been doing this with us. So as, like I said, a representative from a business looking to learn more, they can scroll down and actually see these fantastic community partners who have already sponsored projects with us. And most of these have done multiple. So they can actually, click in and learn about who these other businesses are who are going above and beyond to celebrate home repair and support a local nonprofit. So we really take pride in really giving these businesses their flowers and celebrating the commitment they've made. And again, LMG Architects, a smaller team. We also support, partnering with larger businesses like Lima One, where again, that team building component to sponsoring a build day really comes in. So we're also going to highlight all the folks who have been a part of, piloting this program with us. So you'll see a lot of businesses and local folks that you recognize here who have sponsored their build day, and some of them, like I said, multiple. So we really want to highlight that. We've got some quotes here. But anyways, the point being, we really are leaning in, as you can see, being very direct with our language that leveling up your build day, which involves sponsoring, is an excellent opportunity to, one, support our program, help us serve neighbors, simply put. You bringing funds helps us pay for the materials, pay for the project management. And if we are able to find contract funding for a project, you're helping us pay it forward to a neighbor who may not qualify for those typical funding sources, right? So it's an awesome way to streamline and push forward our mission. Community partners, I can't stress enough, are so important. We love these funding opportunities through, the ACOG and all the things Melanie's described earlier. But really, when we talk about sustainability, it's the people in our neighborhoods and our communities, our business communities, who are going to push us forward. So we, again, link out to several resource hubs here, different ways that a person who is looking for an opportunity can learn everything before they ever make that first outreach to us. We outline some of these FAQs here, which I'll briefly go over. I should say, leveling up your build day at this moment or sponsoring is not required, right? So we know that that's not always available to every group that wants to pull together, whether it's a friend group, a very small business, a small church. It's not required, but we do encourage it because, simply put, it helps us help more families. So we do want to, give it and share it as an opportunity wherever we can. So again, we highlight here that why do we prefer businesses to pay? We are really marketing that team building component to businesses who are already choosing a day out of the year to bring their folks together to volunteer. We, are proud of the experience we're able to provide in an 8-hour time frame where you are not only getting to know your coworkers, you're learning new skills together, you're problem solving together. It's a much more enriching experience than maybe your typical team building experience, like at Topgolf or doing an escape room together. Of course, super fun. But we do, if someone's looking for something different, something more engaging, this is a perfect opportunity for them. So just a couple other things. Again, it's not required to sponsor a build day at this time. We will explain the options to you if you are, inquiring from a business. And we certainly want you to enjoy your experience and want to volunteer again with us. So we'd love to give you the opportunity to volunteer with Rebuild Upstate and see if it's a good fit, our work in general. So it's not required at this time, but the opportunity will be explained to you as something that you may be interested in, especially with all those other perks involved. So I encourage you to visit our new site, which is on, rebuildupstate.org, the Get Involved Volunteer tab, where you can further explore all this sponsorship talk and what it means. And again, the purpose of us talking this through with you is not necessarily to ask you, you yourself or your business to sponsor today, but you are now going to have this information when you're talking about Rebuild Upstate in your church group, at work, in your sales meeting. You can explain to them that we have set up a program, especially for business partners in the community, to be able to have a team building experience, get the marketing perks for it, and spend some of your marketing dollars to actually give back to the community, and increase your, corporate social responsibility score, right? So we're planning ahead. We are confident, and we are already getting creative as to how to navigate these choppy waters when it comes to funding. And this is one of those ways. I will wrap that up. Again, we'll send you the link to that site so you can explore on your own and ask us any questions. Another common way to support any typical nonprofit throughout the year when you're not able to volunteer are through event sponsorships. So I did want to quickly share with you what we have coming up. And first, I will show you Wake Up with Rebuild. So this is the sponsorship sheet that we will be sharing with businesses, churches, to join us for one of the 2 Wake Up with Rebuilds we'll be having this year. Yes, you heard that right. We're having 2 back-to-back Wake Up with Rebuild events, one in Greenville and one in Anderson. I'm showing the Anderson sponsorship right now. Wake Up Greenville will be held on Wednesday, September 10th. And Wake Up Anderson will be Thursday, October 2nd. They'll both start at 7:30 in 2 different locations, the Kroc Center and the Bleckley Station. Again, we'll share this info with you, but why is this important? Well, obviously, events cost money to put on for any organization. Sponsorships are an easy way for a community partner to help us lessen the burden of event expenses, right? So that's one reason, but also it's a fundraising opportunity too. So all of these sponsorships not only help pay for, this free annual breakfast that we're putting on, we can keep it free for community members wanting to learn more, but then we're able to put those dollars forward again to serve more families in need. The more of these tables we can sell, the more sponsorships we can get secured. That's going to help us do that. So that's why we host these events, not only for awareness, but it is an opportunity to bring in some funds to support our program. So I did want to highlight, we are currently still looking for champion sponsorships or sponsors for both events. That's at the $2,500 level. That comes with several marketing perks, opportunity to address our guests, and we do whatever we can to make a sponsor feel seen and appreciated at these events. And it does obviously give you a full table of 8 seats. And then we have some other levels below that we're looking for as well. So again, that's coming up in the fall, 2 back-to-back events. If you know of a business who's trying to get some notoriety and some attention, who's just come to the Greenville or Anderson area, Wake Up is an excellent opportunity. A lot of new prospects attend these awareness events, and we would love to see that event grow. So at the end of the day, free breakfast at both of those. If you just want to attend and learn more, please come. So those are our Wake Up events. And then I am going to share the big one. We've got Toast to Home in February. This is our actual annual fundraising event. It will be held on Friday, February 27th, 2026. We're still finalizing a location, but it will be in Greenville. If you've been to this event in the past, it's a fun time. Thank you for being there. We are getting to know our event vibe, I would say, as an organization, and people are really enjoying the identity we've created with Toast to Home. So it is a silent auction cocktail fundraiser. We have grown our silent auction over the last 2 years and have some exciting local businesses donating, some local stays, Airbnbs, those kinds of things that we'll be able to offer. Of course, we have food and drink, and we do share a bit about our program. We do make an ask for folks to donate to support home repairs. And then we also award our annual Community Champion Builder Award. And so that's also an exciting opportunity to highlight an individual in the community who really just does a lot to support Rebuild Upstate and home repair and home preservation. So quickly just highlighting for your knowledge, again, not asking anyone to write a check today, but in case you know of a business owner who would love the opportunity to support a local nonprofit, we do have several great sponsorship opportunities starting at our highest level, $12,500 to be our exclusive presenting sponsor. Lots of recognition in here, a lot of dedicated recognition, I should say. We get really specific with how we share about our sponsors online and highlight their good deeds. And then, of course, this comes with a table of 8. And then down from there, we do have 7,500. We've got our 5,000, our 3,000. And then, some of our most popular sponsorships for this event are just getting your table reserved, right? So we've got our $1,500 level, which gives you a table and then some extra marketing perks. And then if you just want to be there and make sure you have a seat, we do have a table reservation set at $1,000. Again, that's 8 seats. And we do have some logo and name recognition available for that. New this year, we're adding a $500 half table sponsorship for 4 guests, just so y'all have somewhere to sit together. That's perfect for a couple, 2 couples sitting together. So Toast to Home is really important. We put a lot of energy and effort into building this event and making it a fun environment for our constituents and new friends to join us, new businesses to take part. So I highly encourage you to attend. You can come just as an individual. Tickets will be $100 a piece next year. So that those tickets will go on sale, in the fall. And so we highly encourage you to attend. It helps us raise money, guys. It helps us pay for repairs. We're really straightforward about the purpose of fundraisers here. So that's why we host that event. And again, it's an awesome opportunity. If you're not able to be a Build Day sponsor and get out there on site, coming to an event, putting forward some funds, having fun, and getting some exposure for your business is an awesome and easy opportunity. And like I said, we don't have much as a grassroots organization, but any chance we and any platform we have to highlight a community partner, we're going to do that, and we're going to do it well. So I encourage you to reach out to me or Jake if you have any questions about sponsorship or how to further your involvement or talk about involvement with a community member. We love to chat and we love to share more. So I think that wraps it up for me on some of those local ways you can encourage others to support our mission. So at this time, we will have some Q&A, open Q&A time. And I'll remind you that everything we've talked about today will be emailed to you so that you can review it, ask questions, find a sponsor for one of our upcoming events. We'd love to talk about it. And then again, just wrapping up, we encourage you always throughout the year to, write or call, email, get in touch with your local representatives about issues that are important to you, regardless of if that is home repair or home preservation. Of course, we care about affordable housing. We encourage you to take those steps. If you do have a connection with a representative that you would like to make for us, that would be amazing. We'd love to have the time to just talk about our mission and share why it's important to our constituents. And then your voice sharing to them as well why it's important to you is equally as important. So, with that, I'm going to stop talking for a bit. And if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat or say them out loud. We will do our best to answer them. Thank you so much for everyone who's been here today. And we will be sure to share the recording with you afterwards. So thanks so much. Melanie, I think you're muted.
I am my like little mic offline. I forgot to mention, yesterday we published our first LinkedIn newsletter. We're really sort of trying to increase the way and where we're talking to businesses, where once a month we're just going to be bragging on a business who's helped us out lately. And because it's new, it's a great time to be one of the first ones in the door because we are rolling out all the stops. And even just sharing some of those features on LinkedIn, just sort of helping us plant those seeds to somebody who might not, participate in a Build Day sponsorship this year, maybe next year or the following year. That's all really awesome. So yeah, there's a great spotlight on LMG Architects. That is the first post on our LinkedIn page. If anyone wants to go give them a shout out, I'll always brag on them, but I feel like they really set the bar as far as what business partnership can look like. So giving them some love, we always appreciate. Stay tuned for next month's edition.
Yeah, it's fun. And like I said, we're always trying to find, with whatever platform we have access to, creative ways to highlight those partners. It means the world to us. It truly does. And so we are always coming up with new ways to say thank you. And that's what we have to offer. So if there are no questions, I don't see any in the chat either. We'll go ahead and stop the recording. And again, feel free to reach out to us. My email is rose.davis@rebuildupstate.org. My inbox is open to chat about things and help you with any next steps if you do want to take an advocacy step. We're happy to talk through that individually if you need some more information. So with that, thank you all for being here. Thanks, staff members who joined. Appreciate you guys. It was a big team meeting. And we'll be seeing you soon. Thanks, everybody.